Hello and welcome to the Bombay Film Story. My name is Mayank Shekhar, and this is where we go slightly deeper into the story of Bombay and films through the eyes of someone we totally love and someone we don't usually hear from. Now, I guess anyone in any field might want to make a name for themselves, whether in Bombay or in films, is not an exception. But our guest on the show today is someone who made a surname for himself. He's Kanwarjeet, but he's known across only by his last name, Paintal, the world's most famous painter and one of Bollywood's most loved comedians all through an era. Paintal Saab, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mayank. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to lovely interview. Thank
Same
you.
here, same here. I think the most obvious thing that I'm going to start this conversation with is your name itself. Yes, it's your last name. Firstly, Paintals kahan se aate hain? Where are they from? Where do they hail from originally?
We are basically from Punjab, but now in Pakistan side. And most of the time, my parents lived in Lahore. But then after partition, of course, we had to shift over to Delhi. And after my schooling in Delhi, then I went to Pune Institute in 1967.
Right.
And joined Bombay Industry in 1969 after graduating.
So, Paintal Saab, when you joined the film industry, which would be 1969, as you mentioned, was it a conscious choice you made that you will only keep your last name rather than your first name? All your credits have been only Paintal, whereas that's your last name.
Yes. You see, basically when I came to become an actor, and I was very fortunate कि मुझे बड़ी जल्दी breaks मिलते गए. So then I wanted now Kanwarjeet, Paintal would have been, or Kanwarjeet would have been a too big a name. And during those days, it was a trend that people were changing their names, usually not keeping their original name. But then me, Shatru Sahab, we all friends, decided that we'll keep our own name. But then I personally felt that Kanwarjeet is too big. So I said, why not let me keep Paintal? It's intriguing. People don't know who I am from where I am. Mostly people thought I'm a Christian. Some people thought I'm a Parsi. So Paintals are basically Punjabi, Sardar. And I liked my family name. I'm proud of my family. So I kept my name as Paintal.
I mean, speaking of which, of course, you have a brother, Goofy Paintal. Of course, Goofy couldn't be his real name too, right?
No, now that was another story because I'm senior in the film industry. And Goofy came after 5-6 years of my becoming a known actor. By then, Paintal was known. He always wanted to be an actor. So जब उन्हें मौका मिला, chance मिला, तो उन्होंने कहा मैं क्या नाम रखूं? Paintal तो मैं रख नहीं सकता because you are Paintal. So his nickname is Goofy. His real name is Sarvjeet. I'm Kanwarjeet, he's Sarvjeet. So his nickname was Goofy, and all the unit people used to call him Goofy. So he said, might as well keep it Goofy Paintal. So he kept Goofy Paintal.
Your brother, who's elder to you, actually wanted to be an actor, but your father said that, he should go and study engineering instead. Now, this could also go with the usual theory that a lot of people have, that, with siblings, the younger one has it a little easier when it comes to fulfilling parents' expectations. The parents are a little harsher on the elder one. Is that what happened there, that he was forced to study engineering when he had absolutely no interest and he had to go to Jamshedpur?
No, you see, basically, those were the times when हर कोई अपने बेटे को या डॉक्टर या वकील या इंजीनियर बनाना चाहता था because they always felt that these are very secure professions. बंदा survive कर लेगा. But fortunately for me, my father was a cameraman in the film industry in Lahore. So when Goofy went to Tata Nagar, Jamshedpur, he, to fulfill his urges and एक वो कीड़ा होता ना कीड़ा शौक पूरा करने के लिए, he bought a 8mm camera. And now that 8mm camera he had to shoot. So I was the only model, only person available. And I was right from the schooling, I was interested in acting. तो मुझे वो मॉडल बना के ideas हम लोग सोच के shoot करते थे. But when he saw me in those films,
You're talking about your father.
My father, 8mm small film,
Right.
homemade films.
Right.
क्योंकि उन दिनों वीडियो होता नहीं था. Either you have 8 mm, 16 mm and 35 mm. तो 8 mm के handy small cameras मिलते थे, तो we used to shoot. But when he saw that and he saw my interest in acting, so he said, why don't you join film industry? Actually, he's the one who suggested. And then my aunt, my Mausi, she was a principal of a school in Ghaziabad. She suggested that why don't you join Film Institute? Because there was no television at that time. Only DD National was there. तो उन्होंने कहा कि अगर एक्टर बनना है तो प्रॉपर रास्ते से जाओ, प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग लेके जाओ. So my father applied for me in Film Institute of India. That time it was FII. So I joined that in 67, and the rest is God's grace.
I'm going to explore the FTII or the FII part in a little bit, Paintal. Right now, I'm just obsessed with the sibling story. The two brothers, both of them in Bollywood, both of them actors. And of course, Goofy Saab also worked in other roles in terms of even behind the camera as an assistant director, and various other parts and roles that he played as part of a crew. But eventually, if one were to look at, and because we tend to usually look at actors and we remember them because we see them on the screen, he turned out to be the villain, as it were, on screen, the on-screen villain, whereas you were the on-screen comedian. Was that something that was just a pure coincidence?
Yeah, I think it was just a coincidence. Because he's basically also a good actor. See, also बोल के मैंने अपने आप को भी include कर लिया as a good actor.
That you are. I mean, that's a given. That's a given.
So he's a good actor. And you see, क्या होता है, Mayank? In the beginning, you don't have a choice. He started as an assistant director. Then he directed also. He casted for the first time ever. He casted for Mahabharat, which was a very big thing. And आज people understand what is a casting director. उन दिनों ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. उन दिनों it was the whims and fancies and the concept of the director and the writer. They used to select actors. So उस वक्त आपको जो मिलता था वही भगवान का दिया हुआ प्रसाद होता था. And then you do well in that, and then you prove your worth, and then you start getting work. तो उसको जो शुरू में parts मिले, they were negative. And being a good actor, he did justice to them. Then luckily, Shakuni Mama fell into his lap. So that changed the history for him.
Absolutely. I mean, you think of Goofy Painter, the first word that comes to your mind is Mama Shri. You know, he's Mama Shri. That was also the beauty of that show. I mean, Mahabharat, absolutely every single actor on that show is being remembered for that part for the rest of their lives. In your case, it's Shikhandi. I mean, you were Shikhandi of Mahabharat. Well, I mean, given that your brother was the casting director, did he give you a lot more choices of what you could have picked for the role?
Yeah, he was very sweet. He gave me the option कि तुझे भीम का रोल दे दूं. I mean, come on, Mayank, let's face it. I couldn't have fitted in any of Mahabharat characters. Made with the Duryodhan, made
all the Yodhas.
Yeah, naturally. और मैं पिद्दी सी चीज इतना सा मेरा साइज में कहां से, तो of course he couldn't offer me anything, but I was always in his mind. And the moment Shikhandi's character came, in fact, I am the only actor in Mahabharat who did two characters. And Ravi Chopra was a very dear friend of mine much before Mahabharat. So there was a role of Sudama, which I played in Mahabharat. But then Sudama had a beautiful, lengthy role with a lot of emotional moments, which were curtailed by the Doordarshan. They told Chopra साहब कि आप महाभारत की जो मेन कहानी है उसी में रहिए, साइड लेन्स में मत जाइए, नहीं तो ये 300-400 एपिसोड्स का बन जाएगा. So in that process, they had to cut out this friend, कृष्णा का जो दोस्त है, सुदामा. Now, I also forgot. I said, ठीक है भाई, नहीं हुआ, थोड़े से एपिसोड आए, बात खत्म हो गई. Then when Shikhandi came, then somewhere this was in their mind also, because Ravi being a friend, and Rahi Saab also knew me and my capacity. तो उन्होंने फिर रफू चक्कर वगैरह सब आ चुकी थी, तो उन्होंने फिर टू कंपनसेट मी फॉर सुदामा's डिजास्टर कि कम रह गया, तुझे मोमेंट्स नहीं मिले परफॉर्म करने के, they offered me शिखंडी, and which basically I feel I was very lucky to get that character because it was a very challenging character. It was a character which could have been a buffoonery, which could have been a very sad character in the sense of performance. But with the guidance of Ravi and with the guidance of Rahi Masoom Raza Sahab, it had that character, it had that poise, it had that moments which I love performing, and it's one of my favorite performances. Absolutely. I feel very happy when I think of that.
In certain way, Mahabharat was the Sholay of television. And I say that because everyone associated with that show has been associated with that show for the rest of their lives, as was the case with Sholay. I mean, recently, Surma Bhopali passed away, not Jagdish.
Yes, sir.
Gabbar Singh had passed away, not Amjad Khan. Yes. And likewise, I mean, when you think of Sholay, I think of Asrani Saab. And, he was Angrezon ke zamane ke jailer. He was a top comedian at his time. And so were you, doing very similar kind of roles. Was there rivalry between the two of you?
Not at all. We were the best friends. Because when I joined Institute, Asrani Saab had already passed out. He was the first batch. I was the fifth batch. And he came to Bombay, struggled. Kuch zyada kaam mila nahi. So he started teaching in Pune. So from 67, I knew Asrani Saab as my teacher, my guru. And he contributed a lot to my understanding this acting, my maturing in this subject, my gaining fantastic experience in the class, in his classes. So from then on, we hit it. We were very good friends, very good friends.
And he was actually a teacher. He was actually part of the faculty when you were a student. Interesting.
Yes. And then when we came to Bombay, our first film together, major film of his was Umang, where I was also there, he was also there. So we started almost a career together. And then did umpteen number of films together. And every time enjoyed being together. Khana, Pina, Hum Pyala, Hum Niwala, we were like that.
When I think of Paintal and Asrani, the first thing that comes to mind is Champak Bhumia, right? From Aaj Ki Taza Khabar. It's an iconic name to begin with. Well, technically, both of you were the same character in terms of the name. Where did that name come from?
That was writer's imagination. It was, I don't know. It's a very famous Gujarati play.
Okay.
Uske upar based hai, so it was created by them only.
Right.
But
right.
Asrani Saab was always a very big inspiration to me. As a friend, as a guide, he was always a very good inspiration.
One of the things that I find interesting about you, Paintal Saab, is, back in the day, back in the 60s, 70s, there used to be this culture of people in various small towns and big cities who wanted to make it in films because they looked a certain way. They thought, chalo yaar, Bombay jayenge, Bombay shahar mein kuch try marte hain. They would just land up figuring out a way to become, whereas you took the more sorted route, something that might be inspirational to a lot of people, even now, of course, it's become a little more common, is to actually go study it in an institute. You were first class first. You were like topping FTII, or what was FII then. Who were your classmates in FII?
One of the rival in the class, we always had competition with each other, was Radha Saluja. She was in her time, was a very well-known leading lady who did a lot of films. And in fact, in Champak Bhumia wali film, Aaj Ki Taza Khabar, she was the main lead.
Right.
So she was there. Then Suresh Chatwal was there. Then there is another friend of mine, Atam Prakash, who also did few films with Rishida, and Koshish mein he played Sanjeev Bhai's son. So I had 2-3 class fellows who did well.
But were there people from that lot, either senior to you or perhaps a year or two junior to you, who really made it big at that time in terms of the kind of roles they got, the kind of career they charted for themselves thereafter?
The biggest names are Shatrughan Sinha, Naveen Nischal, Danny Dang Zongpa, and of course Jaya Bachchan. They were all my class. I mean, a year earlier or a year down the lane, you know.
Right.
So those were the times when FTII had created a very big name. So all the producer directors started looking forward to trained actor. Because film industry में उससे पहले कुछ था नहीं ऐसा कि trained actor आए. तो हमारे जमाने से जब ये शुरू हुआ तो लोगों को यही लगा कि यार it's better ना, उनको समझाना नहीं पड़ता कहाँ खड़े हो जाओ, कहाँ देखो, what is right of camera, what is left of camera. So they were very impressed. नहीं तो बच्चों की तरह सिखाना पड़ता था.
Right.
So that made a lot of difference. And plus, most of the earlier breed was very good actors. Rehana Sultana ji, Jalal Aga, you know, they were all talent ka bhandar the. So they came and won the hearts.
The time that you spent at the Film Institute, one of the names that always comes to people's mind in terms of a mentor was Roshan Taneja. We hear about him all the time. He passed away a few years ago. What was so great about him? I mean, he's considered the pioneer of method acting. You know, you've been taught under him. You were very close to him as well. What was so special about the way he taught? What was so great about him? If you can just give us a sketch of that personality, Paintal sir.
Mayank, he was a wonderful teacher, a great personality. He knew method acting because he had taken training in New York, came here and started teaching in FTII. I feel मेरे लिए वो acting के भगवान थे. उन्होंने जो awareness, जो insight to this profession, because when you come out from small towns or places and you have no idea of acting except what you have seen on the screen, you see the main problem with बच्चों के साथ यही है कि जो देखते हैं उसी को acting समझ के they start replicating. But Taneja Saab was such a guru who taught us what it is and how to get into it, how to understand your own self. What is training? Training, we all have emotions, we all have everything. What happens in the world, we react to everything. But how to create it in an imaginary situation and make it feel real, it's very difficult. And he made us aware of it. मेरे तो ऐसे लगा था जैसे मुझे निर्वाणा मिल गया हो. एक मतलब तीसरी आंख खुल गई as far as acting is concerned. He was such a great teacher.
Is there any instance you remember, Paintal sir, anything that you remember, something he told you in terms of an instruction, in terms of a life lesson, or in terms of just
everything, every time he guided. But only thing is, because I was also very, very dedicated student and I wanted to know the subject, we had a sort of such kind of a relationship where I used to question him. यार तुम सवाल बहुत पूछते हो. I said, sir, but when I'm not clear, you said this, I feel this. How can I not clarify? Am I right or are you right? तो हमारा वो जो clash चलता था ना, and actually that made me a good actor and that made me a good teacher.
Right.
And that is the reason that right from 2005 to 2013, I was the head of the department at FTII. I sat on the chair of my guru. इससे बड़ी फख्र की बात और क्या हो सकती है? What more do I deserve? That's the biggest thing. कि जहाँ मैं तनेजा साहब की कुर्सी पे बैठ के I was teaching. So that was because of him. He gave me all the inspiration. He was the light.
So those 8 years that you were the head of department in acting at FTII, I think that stopped the course for a long while, right, Paintal sir, and they revived it?
From 1976 to 2005, the course was stopped.
Why did they do that? Why would they do that?
There were a lot of problems and there were a lot of agitations. Somewhere it was not handled properly because Taneja साहब ने छोड़ दिया था. उन्होंने Bombay आके 76 में he started his own institute and I became a teacher, one of the faculty in his private institute in Bombay. तो वहां पर कोई था नहीं हु कुड टेक केयर, सो दे फेल्ट के यार बहुत झंझट है, बंद ही कर दो एक्टिंग कोर्स. So they just stuck to the technical things. Then 2004 end, they started the thing, but I joined in August 2005.
So you had 8 years of an illustrious career as the acting department head at FEI. Who are these students you trained? Some that you're proud of, some that you thought had a lot of potential, did not do that well. Can you just take me through those 8 years, Paintal Sahib, in terms of your students and what you taught?
क्या होता है, Mayank, there are a lot of beautiful boys. एक सक्सेसफुल एक्टर होने के साथ साथ तकदीर का होना भी बहुत जरूरी है. So some of my lucky students, and of course very talented boys, is Rajkumar Rao. He's there. Jaydeep Alavar, and Devendu is there. काफी लोग हैं, काफी बच्चों ने नाम कमाया, बट और भी काफी टैलेंटेड बच्चे थे, बट somehow वो बस टेलीविजन के छोटे मोटे इधर उधर किरदारों में ही शायद फंस के रह गए, शायद तकदीर ने वो साथ नहीं दिया.
So of the three names that you mentioned, Rajkumar Rao, of course, is a bona fide star. Divyendu Sharma, if I'm not mistaken, that's who you're talking about. Is a bona fide, web series star, like the big dude of Mirzapur. Jaydeep Alawas, a big guy in from Patal Lok. I mean, these guys have had fantastic careers. Do you remember seeing them as young kids? What do you remember of them, Paintal Sahib? Is there any memories you have as a teacher?
Yes, I have a lot of beautiful memories with them. In fact, when you're with children, I always love them. I love their enthusiasm. I love their just to learn. और बड़ा अच्छा लगा, बड़े अच्छे अच्छे एक्सपीरियंस थे. मैंने कुछ इनके साथ शॉर्ट फिल्में भी बनाई थी, 20-20 मिनट की फॉर दूरदर्शन. I had made about 5 of them. तो जिसमें कहीं कहीं अलावत ने बड़ा अच्छा रोल किया, कहीं राजकुमार ने बड़ा अच्छा. All the boys, we have a lot of movements, and I always encourage them that do more. You're doing very well. They all deserve what they're getting. They're very good actors, very good people. Farma bardar bachche.
But from the time when you started, and when you moved to Bombay, it was a different Bombay, of course. If I'm not mistaken, television did not exist. There was only film, and film had its own rhythm, had its own gated culture of people. Film Institute was changing that a little bit. To now, when the same kids come out of Film Institute, there is a lot of work that they can get with multiple media available to them. When you were starting out, Paintal Sahib, I mean, you could be the topper, but would it really matter when you wanted your first role in a film? Could you carry a certificate and they'll be impressed कि यार topper आया है, इसको जरूर इसको role देंगे? Did you still have to struggle like everybody else had to?
Yes, little bit, not very much, little bit. I remember one incident that I was going to see some producers in Mohan Studio. Andheri East, there was a studio called Mohan Studio, जहाँ ऋषिदा, बिमलदा, इन सब के ऑफिसेस थे. तो मैं वहां गया था, तो वहां पठान एक गेट कीपर था उस वक्त. जब मैं अंदर जाने का, किधर जाता है? मैं अंदर जा रहा हूं मिलने के लिए. चल चल, कोई इधर नहीं हो. He pushed me so hard कि मैं वहां दूर जाके गिरा, and all my I was really hurt. सब खरोच वरोच आ गई, चोटें लगी. But then because I said कि थोड़े ही महीनों में मुझे काम मिल गया, and I went to Mohan Studio for shooting. Then I stopped there and told him, I said, Khazab, ये देखा आपने? बोले क्या हुआ? मैंने कहा आपने मुझे यहाँ धक्का दिया था, प्लीज दूसरों के साथ मत करना. You never know कब किसकी तकदीर खुल जाए. So people were not bothered, but the moment they came to know that you're worth it, you deserve it, you're good, then they, मतलब एक बच्चे की तरह, एक फैमिली की तरह आपको अपने साथ ले ले. And believe me, उस वक्त it was very difficult to enter the industry. I was very lucky कि मुझे जल्दी से जल्दी काम मिल गया. आत्मा राम जी ने, गुरुदत्त जी के छोटे भाई आत्मा राम जी gave me my first break उमंग, as I told you असरानी साहब को भी. तो that was again destiny. इसका एक छोटा सा किस्सा है. हमारे एफटीआई में क्या होता था कि जब फाइनल एग्जाम होते थे तो बाहर से लोगों को बुलाते थे टू कम एंड जज आवर टैलेंट. So one of the guest teacher was Atma Ramji, examiner. He came and he saw us. उन्होंने अपने marking दे दिए, सब हो गया, चले गए. Then he came and sat in the canteen. We took him to the canteen. कि sir आइए चाय वाय पीजिए, because we knew his Guru Dutt ji's brother. He's made Shikar. He's making Chanda और बिजली and all those. तो we wanted कि थोड़ा मस्का मार दे, तो चाय वाय पिलाने के लिए बिठाया. तो देर चाय पीते हुए उन्होंने कहा कि guys, I'm making a film on youngsters of a group of boys and girls in a society in Bombay, and they have their own band and they want to entertain, and उसके ऊपर एक मेरी बड़ी खूबसूरत कहानी है with young boys and girls, but I need boys dancers वगैरह. तो when you pass out, 1-2 महीने में आ जाओ, come meet me. He said fine. Cut to हम लोग बॉम्बे आ गए. तो हम लोग क्या करते थे, अंधेरी स्टेशन पे मिलते थे जितने पास आउट हैं. तो वहां से फिर वी यूज्ड टू डिसाइड कि आज किस तरफ जाएं इकट्ठे, एंड वी यूज्ड टू स्ट्रगल टुगेदर. उस समय ये राइवलरी का नहीं होता था कि मेरा रोल ये ले लेगा, उसका रोल मैं, नथिंग ऑफ दैट सॉर्ट. प्योर हार्टेड कि जिसकी तकदीर का होगा यार मिल जाएगा, लेट्स गो टुगेदर. तो वी मेट एट अंधेरी स्टेशन. गाड़ी खड़ी थी जो अंधेरी से शुरू होके चर्च गेट जा रही थी. तो आई सेड कि चलो चलो लेट्स सिट, वील गो टू महालक्ष्मी. महालक्ष्मी फेमस स्टूडियो में बहुत स्टूडियोज थे, बहुत ऑफिसेस थे. तो आई सैट इन द ट्रेन और दे सेड कि नहीं नहीं यार चलो, आत्मा राम जी ने कहा था तो आज हम उनको मिलने चलते हैं. अंधेरी ईस्ट, गुरु दत्त फिल्म ऑफिस वाज इन अंधेरी ईस्ट, नटराज स्टूडियो. ऐसा नहीं यार तुम लोग जाओ, मैं नहीं जाता. आई केप्ट सिटिंग इन द ट्रेन. They started moving towards अंधेरी ईस्ट के गेट की तरफ और इधर ट्रेन चल पड़ी. पता नहीं क्या हुआ. I just got up, running ट्रेन से मैं नीचे उतर के I joined them. When I came, आत्मा जी ने कहा ठीक है मैं पिक्चर की प्लानिंग कर रहा हूं, आप लोग ऐसा करो परसों आके ऑडिशन दो, डांस का ऑडिशन लूंगा मैं. We said fine. Now fortunately I was a good dancer. तीसरे दिन जब ऑडिशन हुआ तो आई वॉज द फर्स्ट वन कॉल्ड बाय आत्माराम जी. कुर्सी एक टेबल, एक असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर, म्यूजिक लगाया और मेरे तिजोरी में जितना कुछ था, मेरी तिजोरी में जो जो था, मूवमेंट्स, एक्शन, जो भी था, सारी वैरायटी मैंने वहां फेंक दी. एंड ही वाज सो इम्प्रेस्ड. मयंक, दैट्स अनदर फेदर इन माय कैप, दैट ही टोल्ड हिज असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर टू गो and get an extra chair. He got an extra chair. Atma Ramji made me sit next to him to help him to select next boys for the film.
Wow.
So, तकदीर के साथ साथ आपका काम, आपका टैलेंट भी बहुत जरूरी है. एक बार आप इंडस्ट्री में आ गए उस जमाने में और आपने अच्छा काम किया तो देन बच्चे की तरह they used to adopt you. अपना बना लेते थे. टुडे वो नहीं है.
The talent is a given that you were extremely interested in dance. You were good at that art form. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Paintal sahab, you learned Kathak at Film Institute. Would that be correct? Right?
Yes, I learned Kathak. Then when I came to Bombay and I signed this film Umang, then there was an institute of dancing in Kolaba called Sam Aaron School of Dancing. वहां से मैंने चार्ल्सटन, कॉसैक्स, बैले, स्कॉटिश, फॉक्सट्रॉट, ये सारे डांसेस सीखे. So we did our homework.
Atmaram Dutt would, I mean, given that he was Guru Dutt's brother, was he equally into dancing? Because Guru Dutt himself was was an expert in. I was a student of Uday Shankar. Was a classical dancer himself. Was he also into dance?
Not at all. मेरा ख्याल है डांस के साथ आत्मा जी की इंट्रोडक्शन भी नहीं हुई थी.
Acha, what was he like? I mean, we know everything about Guru Dutt. What was his brother like?
Again, he was a God's good man, a very good man, a very loving man, a man who was ruled by the heart. Businessman नहीं थे, तो कोई भी उन्हें बना के चला जाता था. But he was a good maker, अच्छे डायरेक्टर थे, अच्छे प्रोड्यूसर थे, जो कमिटमेंट हो गई वो पूरी करते थे, पैसे वैसे का. He was a good man, a good maker and a very good man.
Is it true that he was making a television show where you were going to be in that show for Doordarshan, which would be the first television series in India. Would that be correct to say?
Yes, Mayank. That was the first ever serial of our country. It was called Laddu Singh Taxi Wala. It was in 1975 during emergency. And you'll be shocked to hear that in 1975 during emergency, I got a letter from the office of President of India. Atmaram ji, me and Ram Govind ji. He was the writer. Atma ji was the director. I was the main actor. We got letter from President of India requesting us on behalf of the President of India to work in the serial produced by Doordarshan.
Wow.
Which was Laddu Singh Taxi Wala. And we made 13 episodes. And during those days, there were no video cameras, nothing. So we used to shoot them on 16 mm. और वो अभी भी 16 mm के print बॉम्बे दूरदर्शन में पड़े हैं. Please midday tell them.
Yes.
तो वो दिखाओ यार, बड़े entertaining थे.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to show the first ever serial of this country.
Have you had a chance to look at it over the years?
No, it is only kept in the freezer. Archive में रखा हुआ है बॉम्बे में. And they can always convert it. It's 16 mm film.
Right.
They can always convert those 13 episodes and show as a special tribute to Doordarshan, tribute to Atma ji, tribute to all those great actors like Johnny Bhai was there, Aga Saab was there, Mukherjee Bhai was there. We all were there.
Wow.
And beautiful 13 stories of a taxi man, a taxi wala जिसके नए passenger आते हैं and they have some issue or the other and how he innocently likes to solve them. And Rameshwari, the famous actress, that was her first break as she played my sister. Fantastic. And Leela Mishra ji played my mother. It's a beautiful serial. They should show.
That's an amazing piece of history.
Push karo.
Bilkul. I think that should become the task of this podcast, to find the first television serial in the history of India, right? I mean, it's a piece of history. It's an artifact. If it's lying around, we should totally. I mean, was there any dancing involved in that too, Paintal Saab? Were you dancing there as well?
No. That was just a taxi driver, and it was all comic show, but very interesting, very good ideas, very good thoughts.
Right. I mean, the reason why I'm bringing up dancing again is because another part that you'll always be remembered for, and of course, it's associated with dancing, is from Bawarchi, right? And you were the Guruji. Everybody remembers Bawarchi. Everybody remembers the Guruji. I mean, again, from Guru Das' brother, we're talking about Rishikesh Mukherjee. What was it like to be with Rishikesh Mukherjee in an iconic film that everyone, still watches and really enjoys it?
Yes, it was again a great experience. Mayank, मैं क्या बताऊं? वो सारे maker बड़े great थे यार. They were lovely human beings. They were lovely creators. Rishida, Gulzar Sahab, Raj Khosla Sahab, Vijay Anand Sahab, Chetan Sahab, all these people were greats. And Rishida too was so cool about everything. वो ऐसे प्यार से अपना काम निकाल के चले जाते थे और साथ में अपनी चेस खेलते रहते थे. They were really greats. They were greats. एक मेरा बावर्ची का इंसिडेंट भी हुआ था. वो उसमें कुछ तोड़े थे मेरे कि वो जब रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही थी बड़े डिफिकल्ट तोड़े थे. जब रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही थी तो असरानी साहब he happened to be there in the recording. तो जब उन्होंने सोचा कि ये इतने तोड़े ये किसके लिए, बोले पेंटल करेगा ना, गुरुजी का. बोले मरा पेंटल नहीं कर पाएगा. ऋषिदा वो लिप मूवमेंट्स डायरेक्ट नहीं दे पाएगा, आपको मैनेज करना पड़ेगा. तो ऋषिदा सेड नहीं, आई नो पेंटल, ही विल बी एबल टू डू इट. तो रिकॉर्डिंग खत्म हुई. रात को 11 बजे मेरे घर पे कैसेट आया कि ऋषिदा ने कहा कि कल सुबह इसकी शूटिंग और पहला आपका ही शॉट लगा. और असरानी साहब के साथ शर्त लगी है उनकी कि फर्स्ट टेक में यू विल डू इट, ऑल द तोड़ास इन वन टेक. ऐसे ठीक है. जब मैंने सुना तो मेरी हालत खराब हो गई. बट देन मैन, बिकॉज वी वर सो डिवोटेड टू आवर वर्क, डेडिकेटेड, आई सैट द होल नाइट और पूरा याद किया, पूरा उसको समझा. एंड देन नेक्स्ट डे फर्स्ट टेक, फर्स्ट शॉट was okay. I still remember those. Yeah. And if I tell you toda, by
Huh.
the time I reach the third line, you won't remember what the first line.
Go for it. Go for it, Paintal Saab.
सोरस कला बिराजत छवि छाजत पूर्ण चंद सरद रैन उजियारी अति प्यारी निरखी जोग जुगति जागरण जनहित बजाई बजाई मुरली अखंड मंडल महारास मद दीतुम दीतुम दिमिका दिमिका ताथैया ताथैया तक 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 दिग 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 बाजत मीन मृदंग डफ मुरचंग दुदुम्बी करे गे घी त्राम तिगदा तिग था त्राम तिगदा तिग था त्राम तिगदा तिग था बंसी बट पे यमुना तट पे त्राम तिगदा तिग था बंसी बट पे यमुना तट पे.
Whoa.
This was in
Amazing.
one shot.
Amazing. Amazing.
One day, जो आज तक मुझे याद है.
Right.
That's 52 years and I still remember.
Paintal Saab, it's also what, close to 300 films that you've done. I'm always amazed by the sheer quantum of work that artists of your generation, did. It's almost like, how often, like, were you working 24 hours a day to leave that level of output over the years? I mean, or also, how did it work for you to get work? Was it understood कि यार ये film बन रही है, इसमें comic track होगा, एक parallel important subplot होगा, और अभी comedian में चलो पेंटर साहब को बुला लेते हैं. Was it as simple as that?
It was as simple as that.
Okay.
You see, because you have to prove yourself. Once Asrani Saab and me, हम लोग उस वक्त Asrani Paintal were the jodi and we became very famous, very popular. एक जमाने में जैसे महमूद भाईजान, जगदीप भाई, उस वक्त हमारा भी दौर चला था. Not like them, they were greats, but we were also very busy. तो क्या होता था कि यार पेंटल ने वो बड़ा अच्छा किया, वो पिक्चरें तो सभी देखते थे. That's why people like Narendra Bedi gave me Rafoo Chakkar.
Right.
So we were known, we were liked, we had everything. तो जब भी कोई रोल होता था, या असरानी साहब के पास जाता था, या मेरे पास जाता था, या दोनों के पास आता था.
Right.
We used to work together. So there was ये जो मैं बार बात होती है ना, rivalry, और ये कभी दिमाग में आए. Somewhere we were more confident of our God कि यार नसीब में जो है मिलेगा, और जो मिला उसे हमने अच्छी तरह किया, sincerity के साथ किया. Most of the time I used to work 2 shifts a day, 3 shifts a day. एक जगह काम किया, उनको बोला यार मेरा थोड़ा एडजस्टमेंट कर दो, वहां पैकअप किया, दूसरी जगह गए, वहां काम किया, तीसरी जगह. So we were liked, touch wood, God is great because of him, his blessings. We were liked and we did justice to everything we did. That was important. If you're not worth, beta, बाप भी बेटे को काम नहीं देता.
I mean, you mentioned the generation before yours, say a Mahmood or a Jagdeep, or for that matter, even Om Prakash to a huge extent.
Ashit Sen, there's so many, Mukherjee bhai, Dhumal Saab, this Bob Saab, there's so many of them.
Did you see their work? Did you follow what they were doing? Because there was an art, there was a craft to what comedy in Bombay cinema used to be, and that used to be able to crack it because that's what the producer wants, that's what the audiences want. Were you studying them closely outside of what you learned at Film Institute, of course?
Man, we always loved them. I loved them. I respected them. I observed them. I saw what they did, but I never copied anybody. And that is the reason that I was liked. Asrani Sahab was liked because we were originals. We were not copies. They were our inspirations. We could understand how to deal with the character, how to make it. They inspired us.
Right.
They encouraged us. But we never copied. We had our own style, our own way of performing, and that is what people liked, and that is why we were different.
Absolutely. I mean, you've left behind some really iconic films, and I want to touch on a couple of them, of course. And Rafoo Chakkar, I mean, that's a film that is loved even now. It's also like had its own offshoot in terms of response. I'm told there's an entire LGBT community, that looks at the film very differently. कि यार उस समय उस जमाने में heroes, like playing cross dressers was a very big deal. It was something that heroes did not do, right? And you were with Rishi Kapoor doing exactly the same thing. How was it received then? What do you remember of the response? And what do you remember of doing that film? Is there a fascinating story that you remember?
Those days, वाकई बहुत कम हीरो होते थे जो ऐसा रोल करते थे.
Right.
लेकिन मैं, let me tell you something about Rishi Kapoor. Rishi Kapoor was very different. He always wanted to do different things. And that is the reason I worked with him after Bobby, his first film. Bobby के बाद जो hit होने के बाद उनकी पहली picture थी, तब से मैंने काम किया उनके साथ.
That would be Zahirila
And you
Insan.
know, Zahirila Insan.
Right.
I was there with him as in Zahirila Insan. So he took that character of Zahirila Insan after Bobby. Just imagine the image of Bobby Boy doing Zahirila Insan. So I asked him, I said, Chintu, what is this? ये क्यों कर रहा है? He said, no, I want to do different. I want to do अलग-अलग role, yaar, and it's a beautiful character. So he was the kind who took the risk, who was not bothered about commercial aspects. He was not bothered कि मैं hit होऊंगा कि flop होऊंगा. He did it. He just did it. And Zahirila Insan did very well. तो ऐसा था ऋषि कपूर. और बाकी जहां उसके साथ काम करने का मजा, तो बहुत हम लोग मस्ती करते थे, बदमाशियां करते थे. And we were shooting at Bombay Central on a platform. The sequence was we are boarding the train to go to Kashmir. तो वहां शॉट के बाद हम लोग जा रहे हैं, तो suddenly one boy comes and pinches me on the back. तो मैंने जाके उसको तेरी गाली देके उसको मारने दौड़ा. तो मैं नहीं, सॉरी पिंटू साहब, मुझे चिंटू जी ने पैसे दिए थे तो आपको यूं चूटी काटू. वो अजीब लड़का था, मतलब इतना मस्ती खोर, क्या बताऊं. अच्छा, ड्रेसेस का जब बनवाया तो उसने ना, ही वाज अ स्टार, तो उसकी सब सुनते थे. एंड कपूर बाबा, चिंटू बाबा, तो उसने मेरी तो सारी लो नेक बनवा दी बिकॉज आई हैव हेयर, और अपनी पूरी कवर्ड. तो आई हैड टू शेव माय ब्लडी हेयर हियर. तो मैंने कहा ये क्या? बोले हमें क्या पता सर, चिंटू साहब ने बोला कि आपके ऐसे इस तरह सेक्सी बनाना है, तो वी नेक दिए हैं. बड़ी मुश्किल से वो सारा मैंने चेंज करवा के देन आई गॉट इट कवर्ड. अदरवाइज तो लाइक दिस मेनी इंसिडेंट्स. बहुत मजा आया, मस्ती हुई. दीज आर द लवली मोमेंट्स इन लाइफ के ऐसे पोर्शन है जो आज भी याद आते हैं. तो it's so beautiful. These are lovely memories.
Also, I mean, the movie itself was inspired by Some Like It Hot
Yes,
at the time.
it was.
Do you think at that time also it was easy to like really get inspired? It's a borderline situation or inspired or copy. Like, for instance, you were also in Manoranjan, right?
Yes.
And Manoranjan is Irma Ladush, again inspired from. Was that conversation at the time, or was it considered okay कि यार rights तो देने नहीं पड़ेंगे, ये बना लेते? Is that how it was?
Yeah, simple as that. You see, and they asked us, me and Chintu, उन्होंने रफू चक्कर से पहले बोला कि ये फला फला फिल्म की कहानी है, तो would you like to watch? We both said no, we don't want to watch. We don't want to get influenced by anything or anybody. So we did our own bit in our own way. You know, like Satte Pe Satte was also 7 brothers for 7 brides.
Right.
So काफी फिल्मों में, and even खोटे सिक्के, that was also inspired. So there are a lot of films we have done, but ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता था कि कोई केस आ जाएगा या ये होगा या होगा, ये कहानी आ जाओ, चलो let's do it.
Which obviously takes me to Satte Pe Satte, and that's another film that's going to be remembered, for decades to come. And it's been remembered for many decades. In any case, I think 1982 is when that film came out. Like for instance, something as simple as Pyar Hame Kis Mode Pe Le Aaya. I mean, there are enough Indians across the world when they're driving really fast in a car and a few drinks down. Hopefully, the driver is not drunk, but that's the song to really blast. That's the song to always blast in your car. It's the perfect night car song. What do you remember of shooting that song, Paintal Saab? What do you remember of that iconic moment? Did you even know it was going to become so iconic almost 40 years after you shot it?
No, of course, we didn't know it will be such an iconic film. But the best part is, man, that film in particular, we were there, heart and soul, and we enjoyed every moment of making. Because हम लोग इतने घुल मिल गए थे, इतना प्यार हो गया था आपस में, इतनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी. इतनी मस्ती होती थी कि it was not work at all. It was all fun, to the extent that when our director Raj Sippi used to say pack up, so we used to say, why pack up yaar, let's do one or two more scenes. तो हम लोग 9 बजे के पैकअप को 11 बजे तक ले जाते थे. Why people enjoyed? Because we really enjoyed making it. We were there. We loved it.
Did you watch Seven Brides for Seven Husbands, Paintal Saab, before you got into making the film? No.
I told you, I never watched any film which was on some Hollywood film, because I wanted to do my own way. Whatever I'm getting, wo chota character hai, lamba character hai, whatever. I did it on my own.
Everyone was from one of the days of the week. If I'm not mistaken, you would be Budh, right?
Yeah, Budhu.
Please recall the shooting of that song, because that is also part of pop culture history right now, Paintal Saab.
वो जो पोर्शन है जहां पर हम लड़कियां उठाने जा रहे हैं, Amit says के let's go, let's get the girl. So we are in the car and the fast प्यार हमें किस, that portion, वहां पर एक लाइन में I am next to Amit on the left side. Amit is driving. I'm on the left side. तो मेरी लाइन पे I had made myself secured with the car, but I go out, जैसे गिरने लगा. So that was a jolt to the entire cast. So they got scared. They caught me, and if you notice minutely, Shakti Kapoor even abused me in the shot.
Oh, you can tell, huh?
You can tell if you see it once or twice. Only Shakti Kapoor to उसने गाली दी है मुझे. Silently गाने में गाली दी.
Speaking of which, I came across this trivia on this film on IMDb, where it says we can hear you mouthing an expletive in the song part "Pariyon Ka Mela Hai," where if we look at your lip movement carefully, you can tell that you just mouthed an expletive. Of course, I'm not going to use the expletive right now, but do you remember this? Have you come across this fact?
मैं कितनी मस्ती होती थी, कब क्या बोल रहा है, क्या कर रहा है, but we were so much into it that maybe I must have done it. Others have also done it. Everybody has done it. जहां कहीं होता था तो हम लोग अपनी बैग थोड़ी सी दे देते to the camera, and then you used to say, things like that. So it was fun, and nothing but fun. Believe me.
I mean, these are also like 7 actors, roughly the same age in a certain way, playing brothers in an environment where everyone's pretty secure. It seems like every actor is really secure of their place in that film. That really helps, doesn't it? Were you guys partying at night? Was there literally a party in the sense? Were you guys like popping champagne, maybe getting some beers over? Was that happening too?
We were all the time partying. We used to work. After pack-up, we used to go, we used to have our drinks. And in fact, Srinagar, where we did the outdoor, pack-up होने के बाद जब हम वापस आते थे होटल में, तो हमारे लिए वो बैंड होता था in the dining hall. तो हम लोग अपनी दारू पी के, मैं, कमलजीत, सचिन, शक्ति, all दारू वारू पी के हम लोग वहां पर वो पूरे बैंड को हटा देते थे और हम सारे बेसुरे, कोई ड्रम बजा रहा है, कोई गाना गा रहा है. We used to really have a blast. And the beauty is that, man, that after all that, सुबह 7 बजे की शिफ्ट में we used to be there on time. And hats off to Amit. Amit used to be the one who used to be the first one on the set. हम लोगों ने बड़ी कोशिश की कि एक दिन अमित से पहले हम लोग पहुंचे, but that never happened. From Srinagar to Sonmarg, Gulmarg also we went for shooting. When we reached, thinking कि आज हम पहले पहुंच गए, he was there. And so was our director. So we never let the party come in our way of work, and never let the work affect our party.
But Paintal Saab, back in the day, I know Amitabh Bachchan is widely known to be a stickler for time, always punctual, but it was also considered a big deal because the heroes back then would just not show up or be really late, right? You've had those experiences on set? over the years, and especially in the 70s in particular?
Yeah, there were a lot of actors. I won't say मेरे दोस्त हैं मारेंगे मुझे.
I was hoping to get a couple of names out from you.
मैं कैसे नाम ले लूं कि जी वो शत्रुघ्न सिन्हा थे. Sorry, Sonu ji, I have taken your name. There were actors. Hari Bhai used to come late. But you see, the beauty is that after coming late, they used to finish. They were so good in their work. They used to finish the entire work.
Right.
Not let the producer suffer. अगर मैं 4 घंटे लेट आ रहा हूं तो मैं बाकी के बचे stipulated time में I'm finishing whatever you have scheduled for the day. Period. And to a good level. Performance wise, excellent. तो producer को और क्या चाहिए यार? ठीक है, let him come on his leisure. But then he comes, finishes his work and then goes. ऐसे काफी होता था. But अमित जी का बेसिकली ये था कि अमित जी is very dedicated. I mean, he's a class apart as far as timing is concerned. Commitment is concerned. Which, of course, we learned from him also. Like Pransa. This punctuality और इतनी दाढ़ी, wig वगैरह पहन के गर्मी में set पे बैठे रहना, I learned from Pransa. So these are the dedicated people we are talking about. Personalities we are. और वो हमेशा एक अच्छे फिल्म इंडस्ट्री के बंदे के लिए कोई भी प्रोफेशन का हो, these iconic people, these directors, cameramen, these people, actors, they will always remain as something to look up to.
Because we are at the point in the timeline which is 1982, which is of course Satte Pe Satte. You know, the 70s are over. The people that you mentioned, whether even Hari Bhai, as you said, that's Sanjeev Kumar for our viewers in case they were not aware. But then the 80s happened, Paintal Saab, and it shows in the output also to a huge extent, the kind of films that you see in mainstream commercial Bollywood, your revenge dramas, your dacoit dramas, certain, do you think that was a particularly, not necessarily a dark phase, but certainly of a lower quality and caliber if you compare to the 70s? Did you feel that as an artist yourself?
No. That was all basically based on the choices of the audience. क्या बिकता है, क्या चलता है, क्या चाहिए. The assessment of different people to give them what the audience wants. So I don't think there was any phase like that. I don't agree to that. Especially me, because I was dedicated. I was just working, enjoying my work and not bothered about anything else.
But did you at any point feel as an actor, as a trained actor, as an actor who also trains actors, as it were, that maybe you are not getting the parts that you would like to get in terms of something that challenges you as a professional? Did that happen? Because once you become a stock comedian, you think like, अरे यार एक और फिर से comedy का role और ये तो पिछले वाले जैसे लग रहा है. Did that ever happen to you?
No. I was very lucky because the moment I started getting less work in films, I got very good characters in television, in regular serials. So, मेरे अंदर का जो कलाकार है, मेरी जो इच्छाएं थी, they were getting fulfilled by these characters, like Swabhiman and बहुत सारे अच्छे serial किए, where I got very good such characters which had substance in them. So I never felt that. I was always busy, and plus at the same time I was doing a lot of stage also. So I was busy with stage also. तो मुझे ऐसी कोई कमी नहीं लगी. जो मिला बहुत अच्छा मिला और मेरे हिसाब से मेरी झोली से कहीं ज्यादा मिला.
When you say stage, you mean theater or do you mean stage shows?
Stage shows and theater also.
What really fascinates me about you, Paintal Saab, is the number of things that you managed to do besides acting per se, although they're all, related to performance art. We've spoken about your dancing, we've spoken about, teaching, but the third part, of course, is that you are perhaps India's best mime artists, and that you really practiced mime as an art form in a way that no actor in India, or at least no actor of your stature has, and you continue to do stage shows. Take us a little bit through that, Paintal Sahab. Is that something that you still practice? Is that something that you continue to do over years?
I feel very lucky to be a mime.
Hmm.
Lucky I could understand what the whole thing is and I could do it. And I had the honor to meet the world's best mime, Marcel Marcio, when he came on his last world tour to Bombay to perform. So I personally met him and he came to know that I am India's mime. So had a lovely moments with him. Now I don't practice because age has overtaken. Because doing mime is a very strenuous work.
Yeah.
Your whole body is really goes through a lot of pressure and tension. तो अभी तो नहीं हो सकता ना, मैं कोशिश करता हूँ. हाँ, but ये है कि whenever I could, I performed also, and I enjoyed doing it. First Filmfare Award, I performed mine. Touchwood, I had to 3 times come and take a curtain call because people liked my performance so much. And imagine in 70s, the audience, what kind of audience was there? All those greats were there in Filmfare function. So then I performed in Prithvi Theatre also for the benefit of Prithvi Theatre workers. I did a solo show. So I had my moments in mime also, but from some time now I can't perform. But of course I can guide, and few things I can perform also, but not that much. But
Right.
that was another phase of my life which I really loved.
And then also hosting or emceeing stage shows, Paintal Saab. I mean, you would host shows where Kishore Kumar would be the what was Kishore Kumar like? I would love to know from you. And you would do comedy there on those shows, and Kishore Kumar would come to sing. When was this, Paintal Saab? Which years are we talking about?
आपने काफी रिसर्च की है मेरे बारे में.
Homework करके आया हूँ sir.
Yes, I was the master of ceremony for Kishorda, and right from 70s middle, I have done lot of shows with Kishorda, with Hemant Kumarji, with Nutanji, with Bappi Lahiri Sahab, Kumar Shanu, all these boys,
Right.
Udit Narayan, everybody. I've done a lot of shows. I've been a master of ceremony. I used to have my own stand-up comedy sessions also. Plus, I used to dance also. So, वो एक joker होता है in the pack to be fitted anywhere, everywhere. So I did that also. And Kishorda का तो मतलब कमाल होता था. I must share a small thing with you about Kishorda. Kishorda जब show पे होते थे, and before entering the start of the show on the stage, before entering the stage, he used to be nervous. And इधर उधर घूमते रहते थे. Now I don't know why, but the moment that step across stage पे step रखा नहीं कि he was a lion. He knew what to give the audience, and of course, such a talented man, such a creative man, he used to take the audience like this in his hands. और कभी mood अच्छा नहीं है, कोई बात हो गई है, so he used to come on the stage and start with sad song only. सैगल साहब के पुराने गाने, तो हमें पता लग जाता था कि आज इनका मूड थोड़ा ठीक नहीं है. So then we used to, somehow manage and get him to his self. And of course, everybody loved him. Everybody enjoyed him. And he was a true entertainer.
You know what, Paintal Saab, I started this conversation mentioning your brother, Goofy Paintal. We're getting towards the end of this conversation. I want to bring him back into this because I happened to see this particular video of his, where he's, he put out a video, I think a couple of months ago, where he's talking about the state of the film industry in a certain sense, but more so the state of veterans in film industry, where the world has changed so much, and yet the veterans, people who've been around for many, many years, done so well, made a name for themselves, in your case, made a surname for themselves, and yet they have to come and audition attend audition after audition, which is a humiliating thing for someone whose work has already been loved, has already been validated by audiences over generations. Did you have you seen the video, and second, do you agree with that notion
No, I
as it
don't
exists
agree.
now?
I haven't seen the video, but I don't agree. I'm the man who is with the time changing. I have sat with other 5 people waiting for my turn to give my audition. And why not? That's the trend. Now, people don't know you. You might be having a mountain of an experience. But today, now, according to them, can you deliver? Are you capable? Can you remember the lines? Is the mobility of your face, is the modulation of your voice there? They don't know. So I'm the one who's not running in my past glories. Ho gaya, khatam ho gaya. We did the best at that time. We're doing the best at this time. And today's generation really don't know. If a person can stand up and talk about Nutan ji or Ramesh Sippi or anybody of that stature, तो ignorance है कुछ भी है, you satisfy. भाई मुझे क्या देख, मैं it's just an approach and attitude. भाई मैं talented हूँ, मैं अपना काम जानता हूँ, तो आप मेरा एक क्या 10 ऑडिशन ले लो, मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ना है? Why am I scared? Why should I want in charity the role? Okay, come on, लो मुझे मेरा टेस्ट लो, अगर मैं ठीक हूँ तो मुझे काम दो. Because that's today. That's the norm. That's the way it is. So why not? हाँ, ये जरूर है कि मेरे पुराने रिकॉर्ड की वजह से मुझे लाइन में उस तरह नहीं बैठना पड़ता. The moment I go, there are people, somebody comes, takes me to a special room, gives me tea, gives me the dialogues, give me that due respect. और क्या चाहिए यार? आपने respect दिया, आइए, sir, whenever you're ready, we'll shoot it. Okay, beta, I'm ready. So what is the problem? मेरी कोई इज्जत नहीं जाती. I don't mind. I want to prove today also that I'm as good as yesterday. Come, take my audition. तो मेरा attitude उसमें ego hurt करने वाला या बुरा मानने वाला नहीं है. I don't mind. I don't bother.
By God's grace, Peter Saab, you look extremely fit. You look lovely. Of course, we'd love to see you on screen for many, many years, to go. But when you look back at the number of years that you've already worked, are there any regrets? I know that you're a positive person, but are there any regrets? Are there stories that you think, or Bombay Film Story, as it were, that you thought maybe could have turned out a little differently? Is there something that you look back at and think, yaar, ye thoda alag hota to?
Not at all. मैंने बातों में एक बार कहा था कि मेरी झोली से बढ़ के मुझे मिला. I am really fortunate that मुझे इतना मिला, which probably I deserve or don't deserve, I don't know. But I am very happy. I have no regrets. Why? Because I have lived every moment of my existence, my performances, my work. I've lived them, enjoyed them. And for me, there is no regret. I have a lovely family. I have a lovely wife, children. I am contented. And I am not at a full stop. I'll continue. अभी तो age बहुत है. Age is just the number. And I'll continue entertaining and only wish that काम करते करते निकल जाऊं और पता न लगे. No regrets at all. I enjoyed it and I'm thankful to God for giving me all this.
You have absolutely no reason to have regrets. Paintal Saab, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a pleasure and hope to see you soon in real life, given that this has to happen over screen. Thank you so much.
Mayank, एक बात और मैं कहना चाहता हूँ. मैंने beginning में कहा था कि thank you very much for inviting and I hope we'll have a fantastic time. And believe me, thank you so much. It was excellent interview. You are too good. And your homework, ये जो है, this shows your dedication. God bless you, beta, with a very, very bright future and happiness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
It was a pleasure, completely mine. Cheers.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.